am Andrea Gigline. This is another episode of Still Rising. And this episode is going to be different than some of the others because I get to, and you get to hear a conversation today, speak with two people who created something in Nevada called the Canada and Nevada Business Council. So I want to introduce you to Richard Perkins and Sasha. I'm going to read it off my list. Sutcliffe-Stephenson. I got hung up, Sasha. Truly, I love that you had three S's as your initial. I absolutely love that. So
listen, every time I'm presented before the legislature, it's % chance whether I'm going to get of my name right on the record. So that's fine.
And believe me, I never could become a newscaster. I did a hosting of a segment on a small TV channel on books, and having to pronounce the author's name, I just marvel that I have a hard time. I am not gifted in that way. But welcome. And we are here to talk about the phenomenal work that you actually started many years ago, but is so important to the conversation of still rising now because of so many of the variables that are going on. And I will say, sitting in an audience in Las Vegas of preview and having, Sasha, you begin your presentation, I was like, how did I not know that existed? And wanted very much to learn more about your work. So let's talk about that. What made you create this?
And Andrea, we're 10 years in now. And we're one of the more active associations that nobody's heard about. And thank you for doing this. And I'll let Sasha explain how we came to this point in her relationship with the government of Canada before we met.
Great.
Yeah. So before I moved to Nevada, I was in Washington, D.C. working for the Canadian Embassy. And then I was working with some other organizations that focused on international relations and economic development across border. When I moved to Nevada, the consul general of the consulate in LA, I had a relationship with him based on my previous work, and he reached out and said, look, we've got business councils in other states like Arizona and California. We don't have one in Nevada, and would you consider creating one? Because you already know Canada, you know the provinces, you know the culture, you know the business environment. I have a day job. That said, I would love to do it in partnership. I would bring to the table the experience, understanding how the government of Canada works, because we are two very similar countries, but there are lots of differences.
Absolutely.
And then Richard, who is, career businessman and an elected official here in Nevada, would bring that business and political expertise. So together as a team, we decided that it really could work. And we, like Richard said, we formed it 10 years ago at the request of the government of Canada. It's been great. It's been a wonderful
So it was
experience.
actually the request of the Canadian government. And Richard, take me back 10 years. Was that when you were speaker in Nevada of our state legislature?
No, I left the speakership about 10 years prior to that, Andrea. And then I was about 8 years into my business, the business that I had formed when I left the legislature. And so it continued those relationships, both politically and in the business sector. And, when Sasha and I spoke about this, we did look at what was going on here in Nevada and said, you know what, this is really, there's a void here. There's a void in terms of a business council that promotes the relationships between Nevada and the country of Canada. And when we looked at it, our mission is bilateral trade, bilateral tourism, and bilateral foreign direct investment. And so there was that's what was missing here in Nevada. And, while Canada is this extraordinary important trade partner with us and the number one international visitor to Las Vegas, the number one international homeowner in Las Vegas. So, we have a lot of expats here. And that's why it really became a labor of love and a passion project for us.
I want to bring out that point because I know that since our initial conversations, I have repeated the fact that 75% of all foreign-owned homes in Nevada are actually owned by Canadians.
Yep.
And living here, I would have never seen it that way. And it helped me understand how deeply, even though we are not a border state to Canada, how much as a state we offer to other countries, and particularly the countries closest to us, as
Sure.
a way of doing trade.
And in the annual trade with Canada, with Nevada, we export about $1.8 billion worth of goods and services, and we import about $1.5 billion worth of goods and services every year. So it's significant to Nevada's economy. And, if you think about the U.S.-Canadian relationship, it's the longest allied relationship in world history. It exceeds 150 years. We share the longest border in the world, over 5,000 miles. We have command of NORAD, the North American Air Defense System in Colorado. There's a commander from Canada, commander from the U.S., both reporting to their respective governments. It's just a relationship that goes back forever, and for Nevada, it has been significant. And the consulate in Los Angeles, which this is their service territory here, Southern California, Nevada, Arizona, and they measure trade by congressional district. Don't ask me why. That's just how they do it. And Nevada has a congressional district in that service territory that has the most trade with Canada in that entire service territory. So it became, and we've learned this stuff on the fly over the course of the last 10 years, and have been able to try and assist both Nevada businesses who want to do business with Canada and Canadian businesses that want to do business here.
The only other piece I'll add to that is when I was having a conversation with a Canada representative whose name is James Villeneuve, a lot of other countries have what they call honorary consuls here in Las Vegas. I believe there are north of 20 here in Nevada. Canada has never had an honorary consul here. And so for the past 10 years, the Business Council has effectively acted as if as the honorary consul and helping them with whatever they need. I mean, even helping a hockey player get his truck across the border in the season, things like that.
Very important details. And Pete, that is the one thing. It is that constant concept of building bridges between the individuals. Having this conversation at this point in time, there has been so much noise at the national level about a Canadian-U.S. relationship that I think our ability to have a hyper-localized conversation, because it's at that level that we're back to the people. What do people need? What do businesses that run these, the businesses need in order to keep thriving?
Sure.
Richard, you used one number that in the trade that Canada is 1.5 billion. Does that exclude the tourism dollars attributed to Canadians, or is that part of it?
No, it does. That's just goods, goods and services.
That's just goods.
Goods and services that get imported here or exported to there. So the numbers of Canadians, it's north of $1 billion, I believe. I won't mess up the number, but the Las Vegas Convention and Visitor Authority tracks the Canadian spend here, and obviously it's down right now for several reasons. The challenges that we have between the Canadian-U.S. relationship and some of the dialogue that's gone on, but it's always significant and a huge portion of the international visitor to Las Vegas, and which is why we see, and Sasha can speak more directly to, what the casinos and the Las Vegas Strip and the tourism economy is doing with, as it is impacted by international tourism, primarily from Canada.
Great. So you're a council. I come to you if I'm a Nevada citizen, or if I am a Canadian citizen and I am trying to get business or even quasi-personal things. As I said, the noise at the national level is really loud. So tell me how you are rising above that noise and continuing your work.
And it's primarily because we operate at a sub-federal level. We don't ignore what's going on in Washington, D.C., although I can tell you that our entire congressional delegation is very supportive of Canada. They've made trips there. They're very familiar with the past consul generals and the current acting consul general. They've had meetings. We loop them into these conversations a lot. We were we were asked to help with a potential congressional delegation visit to Ottawa last year that didn't end up happening because of the scheduling in Congress. But so we operate at a sub-federal level. It's, dealing with the legislature. We have a Canada Day at the Capitol every time the legislature meets. And, we have that kind of a dialogue. We took Governor Lombardo to Canada on a trade mission 2.5 years ago. So September of 24. And, that conversations were extraordinary. You think about what's going on here. Air Canada is a huge player in Las Vegas. Cirque du Soleil. CAE is a business aviation training system. And, we on and on and on and on. There's several of these companies. Folio Furniture, builds furniture for hotels worldwide. And their biggest plant is right here. So it's that kind of dialogue at the sub-federal level that allows us to really sort of maneuver past a lot of this.
And there's a lot of nuance and things that you wouldn't necessarily attribute to Canadians. So I actually attribute the success of professional sports moving to Nevada, the proof of concept, right? That is a large part due to Canadians, because the theory is if you have a sports venue here, and 15 years ago, we were the pariah of the major sports world. But have that facility here that can support those events, and then when someone's deciding to go on the road to go watch their team, they would rather come to Vegas and spend 3 days here around that sporting event. And Canadians have shown up in droves. I mean, you've got a Canadian, the Flames or the Oilers or the Habs here. Half of the jerseys are Canadian, right? They flock down to the environment here, and I think it has really paved the way for us to have all of the other sports that we're enjoying now.
And it fits into the internationally owned homes and all that sort of thing. You don't have to shovel sunshine, right? So, everybody that lives in, north,
we've got sunshine.
North the border, it gets a little chilly in the wintertime. So we've got the snowbirds, we've got the people who want to come visit, especially during hockey season. By the way, the Vegas Golden Knights has the largest percentage of Canadian hockey players of any team in the league. So, we've got all of these things that we can point to. And you think of the Celine Dions, the Shania Twains. When we have NFR, about a third of those cowboys come from Canada. Calgary has probably the second largest rodeo on the planet. So it's all of these things just fit very nicely with how we operate here, what the attractions we're trying to provide, and the fact that we basically speak the same language. We're on the same time zone, where there are many, many direct flights. All those sorts of things just fit nicely into this.
Yeah, I really, what I hear when each of you speaks is the continual connection between people and the things people like to do and how they like to work, that there is such a synergy that allows this to go on regardless of all the distractions that, may come up, because there's many things we don't control, taxation and tariffs and all of those things that stop things. I know that I had a client in the building trades and prefab homes, and it was one of the first things that initially got hit. So it freezes up, but you don't stop trying.
No, and the last time when NAFTA was being renegotiated, it became USMCA, right? We participated in a lot of business roundtables and some visits to a lot of manufacturers here in Nevada, because at the time that's when the very first thought of tariffs on aluminum and steel, which is almost required in any manufacturing process. And we got a lot of input. Those folks then reached out to our congressional delegation to talk about what is important to them as a business here in Nevada and the jobs that they have created here. And all of that became very much part of the dialogue that ended up becoming part of USMCA. Now we find ourselves in 2026 going to do the same thing, and I'm sure we'll have some of the same dialogue. By the way, there's always been, the softwood lumber, right? The dairy discussions across the borders. But
it's just this version of the noise always because of mediums, just like the one we're using today. The noise level appears to be much higher because there's so many different voices added in at different volumes. And that's why I appreciate so much just having a conversation with you to try and understand What is it that you created? Why did you create it?
Sure.
Now, before we conclude, in case there's something else that you'd like to talk about, there is one thing that I'm wondering, from knowing where we are and knowing the 10 years behind you, what does your next success feel like for the council?
I think it feels like this. We are a dues-driven organization. So a association, people want to join, they pay dues. And by the way, none of us have ever taken a salary from the business council. We have other businesses.
That's amazing.
But we have other businesses that pay the bills, but this is truly a passion project. Our next step,
we do use the dues to pay for the research, so we know about the home ownership and visitation.
Oh, sure.
We do use it to support, encouraging our officials to go up Canada and to form relationships with their counterparts in the different provinces. And we do use it to support events and activities here where the Canadians come down to Nevada. So it really is a supportive association. Like, we collect dues, but it goes back into the work.
But our next step is to find somebody to do this full time, because we do it part time, and use those dues to do that. And we've looked at and talked with a number of people that were in trade, provincial trade offices in the United States in various places that would understand Canada very, very easily, and then step into that role. And then we would elevate that effort with the Governor's Office on Economic Development, the Las Vegas Global Economic Alliance, the Vegas Chamber, the Latin Chamber, and others to really start to grow that and be able to spend more time actually helping some of these companies. I've got 3 of them now, Andrea, that have reached out, and they're doing great jobs, but they could certainly use the networking that we can provide to grow their business. And frankly, it just becomes an issue of time. So building it that way so that we can continue to have an upward trajectory to build. Our goal is to grow the economy of Nevada and grow the economy of Canada at the same time.
Yeah. It's magic when it works for all sides. I kept seeing this matrix and these bridges of what you're trying to do for the sole purpose of raising that up. And I deeply appreciate this conversation. Now, I want to be able to direct people. Is the CanadaNevada.org, your website, the best place for them to go?
It probably is, or frankly, I get a lot of mail. So it's Richard at CanadaNevada.org, and it's Sasha at CanadaNevada.org. So
perfect. And I'll make sure that those are in the show notes also. That is really
that's the most direct way to reach us. Full disclosure, we're having a little bit of a challenge with our website. We it's been down and up, and we're modernizing it a little bit with some modern. We have so many contacts that we've made with consuls general, with Canadian ambassadors, with all sorts of things, and we just, again, because we have other businesses that we're running, we haven't really kept that up to speed.
Much of our business and our engagement comes from word of mouth, and so the priority for us and the time that we have to dedicate to this has been in being responsive and thoughtful, and making sure that people are connected where they need to be connected. We haven't really been focused on self-promotion. I think that's part of hiring someone on full time where they can focus on that.
And feel free to put my cell number in the notes as well. I mean, that's how I communicate mostly.
Okay. And that is one of the things that each of you bring an extraordinary amount of talent through your own companies that help these relationships grow further and these businesses grow further, that it is important that you use your talents in order to make it grow in the right ways. So I want to Richard, Sasha, thank you so much. I appreciate this conversation. Hopefully, a little part of still rising from the concept that, we're still doing our jobs every single day to make the world better and business better. And those things, don't listen to the noise, just come to Nevada.
There's a reason our byline is friends, partners, and right.
Fabulous. I didn't notice that. That is terrific. And that is a beautiful note for us to end on.
Thank you, Andrea.
Thank you, Andrea.